Reverend Canon Anthony Eiwuley, who is the Provincial Secretary of the Church of Province of West Africa, on the creation of a diocese within the Anglican Communion. We're able to look at what the constitutional provisions are as far as a creation of a diocese is. And yesterday, he was able to give us the various bishops that we have: a diocesan bishop, we have an assistant bishop, a bishop coadjutor. And for the purposes of creating a new diocese here in Accra, we've heard of the word Suffragan bishop. So we'll be giving much more flesh to the role of a Suffragan bishop. And then we also saw the criteria that an area that is to be carved out needs to meet before they can become a full-fledged diocese, which that blessing will have to come from the primate of the province. So today's conversation, yesterday we ended at the point that after the go-ahead is being given by the primate, there's an inaugural ceremony that will take place to carve out the area to be made a diocese. And from yesterday's conversation, they are to have an initial synod, and at that particular synod, they will be looking at electing a diocesan for the area that is created. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So yes, I was trying to jump the conversation on at what point do we say that a priest is going to move in or out of the new created diocese? And at that first synod you made clearly, that is where they are going to decide on electing a diocesan. Is it going to be done on that very first synod, or do you give themselves timelines?
I said it's not called a first synod, it's called a special synod. Because the purpose is solely
for the
to elect a diocesan. And I made you aware that the people who constitute that particular synod are members of the Accra Synod who belong to the Tema Archdeaconry. So they will constitute the first, they will constitute the membership of that special synod to elect a diocesan bishop. Then when the diocesan bishop is enthroned, depending on, I mean, let me explain something here. It is not automatic that the Suffragan bishop becomes automatic diocesan bishop. He has to go through an election.
What you are saying is, if we are done, we've elected a Suffragan bishop, which I'll come for us to explain or give much flesh to his role. But for the purposes of a diocese that has been created, who would have to go and meet at a special synod to elect a diocesan? You are saying that the Suffragan bishop would be subjected to another election.
Sure.
Does it mean that it is not automatic?
It's not automatic. The only persons whose election is automatic is the bishop coadjutor. So he succeeds the diocesan bishop when he retires. Here, we are electing a Suffragan bishop who is assisting the diocesan bishop in his episcopal duty. Because the bishop then sees, as the constitution states, that if he needs episcopal assistance, there are two categories that he can elect. He can ask for a Suffragan bishop to assist him or a bishop coadjutor. But in most cases, bishop coadjutors are elected getting to the dying years of the diocesan, so that he understudies him, that immediately he retires, he moves in.
So probably like sometimes a year or two.
A year or two, yeah. I mean, the minimum that we've seen is 3 months in the Diocese of Bo.
Okay.
But critically, the moment the diocese is created, it's a fresh diocese. There's no bishop. The primate acts as the bishop of the new diocese until a diocesan is elected. And everybody is qualified. Even if a bishop has been elected in his diocese and he thinks that I want to leave my diocese and come to Tema, he's entitled to come and contest.
I want you to hold on this one for me. Okay. We will come and talk about a proper elections for a new diocesan bishop.
Okay, right.
Now let's come to a dual role that is being done so far as the creation of a diocese is concerned.
Right.
Where we've elected a Suffragan bishop. Currently we have the Very Reverend Dr. George Kutenikwe as the Suffragan bishop elect for the Anglican Diocese of Accra. Whose consecration is to come Sunday 30th of January as Suffragan bishop of Accra Diocese. After his consecration, what becomes his role as the Suffragan bishop for the Anglican Diocese of Accra?
his role is to assist the diocesan bishop.
Mm-hmm.
And so his duties will be spelled out to him by the diocesan bishop. And so there are no clear-cut duties in the constitution for the Suffragan bishop, like for a diocesan bishop.
Okay.
And so the diocesan bishop then says that you've now been consecrated as the Suffragan bishop of Accra.
Mm-hmm.
You are my assistant. And so I will give you roles to play.
So from what you're saying, the diocesan will be bequeathing functions
yeah.
to the Suffragan bishop.
Yeah.
And it is not straitjacket that he would have a enshrined duty in any constitutional document.
No. I mean, it's just like you go for you get employed in an organization. Mm-hmm. Your roles are, I mean, stipulated in the offer letter that they give to you. And so the diocesan bishop would tell him, I want you to do A, B, C, D. Beyond that, anything that you want to do, come and confer with me before you do it.
You have been with bishops,
yeah,
by way of your job.
Right.
You've seen Suffragan bishops.
Yeah.
Does it mean that, and from what you gave yesterday, it means that the moment he's being consecrated, he becomes an automatic member of the Episcopal House of Bishops.
That is it.
In his mandate, or as part of his duty as Suffragan bishop, are we going to see him do Episcopal duties like ordinations and confirmations at the behest of the diocesan?
That's why I say the diocesan will give him roles to play. No, he is a bishop. And yesterday I told you that the prefix of diocesan, assistant, coadjutor, and suffragan are offices. The offices tell you what you have to do. And so as suffragan, he can, with the permission of the bishop, go and perform consecration, confirmation. He can, in the absence of the bishop, do ordination. I'll give you a scenario. If the bishop travels out of the jurisdiction, he takes over the role of a bishop. He's not a diocesan, but he takes over the role of a bishop and perform all the episcopal roles. The only thing he does not do is that he is not a diocesan, and so do not begin to carve out visions and, I mean, like he's not there, so this is what I want to do. You can't do that because you are only assistant. And if you have a suffragan bishop, you know, the constitution says that if the bishop is absent, he appoints a vicar general. If there is a bishop, a suffragan bishop or coadjutor bishop, anytime that the bishop leaves the jurisdiction of his diocese, he automatically steps into the role of the diocesan bishop and performs the role of the diocesan bishop.
So if I get your understanding and what I have experienced, meaning that the suffragan bishop will not be entitled to a staff.
Technically, the staff, which they call the crozier, is the mandate of the bishop, that diocesan. I mean, he's given that to shepherd the flock. Now, the diocesan bishop can, if he sends the suffragan bishop or the coadjutor bishop to go and perform a role for him, and he wants his authority to be established at that particular place, he can give him his.
On which occasions, like synod or other diocesan functions?
Okay, let's say synod. The diocesan bishop is incapacitated. I'm not saying he should be. He's
just in the event.
In the event, he's incapacitated. The authority of the bishop is the crozier. And so he will be mandated to hold the crozier into the synod.
Let me come.
But let me explain. But for confirmation, he may not have to hold the crozier for confirmation, because the diocesan is still in the jurisdiction.
That is interesting.
It is by the permission of the diocesan that you can hold the crozier. It's not automatic. And I'll give you a scenario. There are certain bishops who have been elected as perpetual suffragan bishops. They don't hold croziers.
Perpetual in the sense that they are everlasting.
They are everlasting. In terms of the bishop has has caused him to be elected, not because he's carving out, but because the role, the functions that he has, as his duty, looking at the enormousness of his diocese, he needs assistance. And so he says, okay, I want you to come and assist me. Anytime that there's a role that I have to go, a function that I have to go and play, and I am not able, I'll send you to go and do it. And so you assist me in my episcopal duties.
Now that you've explained the cross here, I was in one church over the weekend, and then they were talking about preparation towards the consecration of a Suffragan bishop, and then it came to note on the seat of the diocesan, that we know that the seat of the diocesan is present in the cathedral of every diocese. And the ones we see in the parishes are the replica of the diocesan. Just in the event of the consecration of the Suffragan bishop, and then the Suffragan bishop is to celebrate a mass in the cathedral. Are we to see the Suffragan bishop sit in the throne of the diocesan? Are we to see it?
No. And I'll explain. That is his throne. I mean, if you are not a king, you don't sit on the throne. The fact that you are performing the role of the king does not give you the permission to sit in the king's throne. Backtrack. We have a president and a vice president. If the president is not there, the vice president does not sit in the president's throne, seat. They give him a seat to sit. But the seats that you find in the parishes and the congregations, they are replica of a bishop's seat and not a throne. And that every bishop who goes there to preside over a service can sit in that seat with the permission of the bishop.
Oh, okay. So that is understood. Meaning that
when I say with the permission, you can't come from your diocese and come into somebody's diocese
without informing the family.
And so when you inform me, when you go, use the seat. And there have been instances where you've seen, you go to services, a bishop from outside the jurisdiction of that particular diocese comes and he's presiding. He sits in the bishop's seat, not the throne. His throne is only in his cathedral.
So if we finish with the consecration ceremony of a Suffragan bishop, we should not see the twin ceremony of an enthronement so far as a Suffragan bishop is concerned.
The Suffragan bishop is never enthroned. Likewise, a coadjutor bishop is never enthroned. The only person who is enthroned is the diocesan, to put him in charge of the diocese. That's why you are putting him the seat of authority, that is the throne. And so you don't elect a bishop and so you want to enthrone him. And you ask the question, if he's celebrating a mass, does he sit in the cathedral? Does he use the bishop's throne? No. There will be a replica seat for him to sit.
So we are expecting that there will be a seat to be done or created for the Suffragan bishop at the cathedral?
I would not jump that question and answer it because I don't know the intention
of the diocesan. Now, coming on this note, let me come to a bit of a distinction or a discord in the minds of people so far as currently we have a dean of the cathedral being elected to become a Suffragan bishop. And as it stands now, there's no replacement of the dean of the cathedral. When he's done with his consecration, does he automatically end his mandate as the dean of the cathedral?
No, unless the bishop says so. Because they have an instance in this diocese that Bishop Aruna Nelson was the provost of the cathedral when he was an assistant bishop.
Wow. So this is not novelty.
No, it's not novelty. And so, and there are instances where people are elected as Suffragan bishop or bishop coadjutor, and the fact that they were deans of their cathedral, they do not relinquish that role unless the bishop says so. I'll give you a recent one. Kumasi was elected as a bishop coadjutor. before he became bishop. He was the dean.
So he was the dean of the cathedral.
He also was the dean. And so you play the role of a dean. The dean is, you are just holding forth the cathedral on behalf of the bishop. And so if you are his assistant and you are in the cathedral, why are you running away from the role of? Because if he doesn't give you any duties to do, you already have that role to play as a dean.
When we just oppose that and look at what informed the decision of even having a Suffragan bishop was to see to it that we are able to carve out an area.
You know, yesterday I was trying to say the purpose of the Suffragan is not only for carving, it is for episcopal assistance. That is what the Constitution says. But the practice has been that because maybe the bishop wants a fast track of the process, he's creating a Suffragan bishop, he's asking for assistance for a Suffragan bishop to be elected, then he will say, go and foresee the preparation of that area that we want to create. And so it is not, it is not a cut and steel issue where the Suffragan bishop is always elected because we want to carve out.
The conversation is becoming interesting and then more interesting. You can keep your conversation and then your thoughts too coming in on our social media handles. And then we are streaming live on Facebook at Adwa Television Ghana and also on YouTube at Adwa TV _GH. Let me say a very good morning to Mary J. Yate, who is watching in the comfort of her home, and all others too who are also watching. As of when the messages keep coming in, we would read them for you. I think this one says that, good morning, Adwa TV. Thanks for once again for this educative program. God bless you all. Listening with rapt attention. And this one is coming from Madame Elizabeth Adiko. Madame Elizabeth Adiko. Now that we've been able to expunge or give further elucidation to the role of the Suffragan bishop, and in our case, what we are going to experience here in Accra. Now, let me come back to if finally the primate gives the go-ahead that the diocese is to be created, and then at that special, after the inauguration, after the special synod for the diocesan, we are saying that it is not automatic for the Suffragan bishop to become the diocesan.
Right.
Who then qualifies to contest for a diocesan in the new diocese?
The criteria is in the Constitution that the person has to be more than 30 years, a bishop of 6 years,
a priest of 6 years,
a priest of 6 years, and he has to give his consent. These are the three criteria. You know, there are other criteria that is, set by the nominating committee when the net is wide. They look at it. You go to a diocese, there are about 50 people who are qualified, 30 years and above, 6 years in ministry. So are you going to look at all the 60 people? And so you bring out certain criteria that let's look for A, let's look for B, let's look for C. And so when you do that, you sieve the number and gradually you fulfill the constitutional provision of 2 or 3 nominees to be presented to Synod.
Interesting. Meaning that we'll be looking forward to an election if Tema is created to be a diocese.
Definitely.
Where any priest that is 6 years in ministry, that is 30 years and above, can come and contest to become a diocesan bishop, including the Suffragan bishop himself.
Including a Suffragan bishop and including any other bishop from any other diocese who wants to be a diocesan of that. It has happened before in Accra.
And in the case of that bishop, the bishop will have to vacate his...
He will vacate. And so his place will also become empty and other people will go and contest. And when it comes that we call it, he's translated into the new diocese. But he has to be enthroned.
Because he's already been consecrated.
He's already been consecrated.
Now,
in the same way, assuming or if the Suffragan bishop gets elected, he doesn't have to be consecrated again because he's already a bishop.
So he'll be enthroned.
Then if he wins that election, then he'll be enthroned as the diocesan.
But if not him and any other person who is not a bishop already then wins the election, would have to do a consecration and then enthronement for that particular person, for the Tema diocese created. Now, on the consecration rites, when I look at the consecration of a bishop, I see that, okay, he's been given an episcopal ring. He's been given, is it a pectoral cross? Pectoral cross, we call it. And then after the signage with the chrism, we are seeing that we give him a pastoral staff.
He gets
the mitre?
No, not the mitre. The
skull cap. Then the pastoral staff comes in. Is the pastoral staff meaning that it is the authority he draws from?
You know, I have my inhibitions about the pastoral staff. In the sense,
and it's personally.
No, but that's my personal inhibition from what I've read. Because assuming the person is a perpetual suffragan bishop, what does he need the pastoral staff for? Or when the bishop sends him, oh, I have my pastoral staff, so I'll use it. Because excuse me, it's a bishop who is going to give you that authority, that hold my staff to this area, for the authority of the bishop to be present and seen. And so what we do has become more of a symbolic nature, that receive the staff to shepherd the flock. Because you know it has a curve like a shepherd's staff, so that you use it to bring the flock in. It's symbolic. But technically, if you ask me, I think it is not right.
If it's not right, your role as provincial secretary gives you the opportunity to coordinate consecration ceremony.
Yeah, you know, when you set a bad precedent, it's difficult to change. Because when you try to change, oh, but we did it for it, why can't we do it for
this person?
Because the controversy came when we were consecrating the first suffragan in Ghana. At that time, I was new in office. I was just 2 years in office. And so I had not read much about episcopal roles and, functions. And so there was this debate as to whether to give him a staff or not to give him a staff. And so in so doing, a bishop had already been consecrated as a bishop coadjutor. And so we had to ask him, when you were consecrated, were you given a staff? He said yes. But for a bishop coadjutor, I can say, let it pass, because he will be bishop automatically.
He's in waiting.
He's in waiting. So even if you give him a staff, he can take that staff when the place becomes vacant and walk into the office. But for a suffragan bishop who is not automatic, when you give him a staff.
So meaning that the consecration we are to witness this Sunday, and we have a pastoral staff being given to the suffragan bishop during his consecration rites, we should not see him wield it after the consecration.
He can't wield it. Even if he celebrates mass, personal mass. When I say personal mass, a mass that is not authorized by the bishop to celebrate. Because he can, if the bishop gives him a mandate that go and perform confirmation in this particular area, hold the staff as you go. Because there have been instances, and it has happened in my church. When I say my church, when I was at Holy Gabriel at Shaman, the late Bishop Datson was asked to come and perform confirmation at my place. And when he came without a crozier. And I asked, and he tutored me. You know, he's one of the, first bishops from Accra, which were carved, four. The four bishops were carved in 1981. And so he rather schooled me and told me who holds what. If you are not a diocesan, you don't hold a crozier. He was there as an assistant bishop because he had retired. And so the diocesan has asked him to come and perform confirmation. He's not a diocesan. What is the need for the staff?
Thank you. If you are not a diocesan, you don't wield a crozier. This is part of the education that we are giving to you as we Ghana ourselves towards the build-up of the consecration of the first Suffragan bishop for the Anglican Diocese of Accra. Am I right to say?
You are right.
All right.
There have been replicas of Suffragan bishops. We have had Bishop Matheson, Haruna Nelson, even Bishop Lemaire was an assistant bishop of Accra. The late Bishop J.B. Atta, who became the diocesan for Kumasi, was an assistant bishop. He was sent to Kumasi. But these are, if you bring it into today's term, these were more or less like Suffragan bishops. But with the title itself, this is the first time Accra is electing a Suffragan bishop.
Interesting. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone. The person said that, okay, meaning that after the consecration, he's going to become, they are going to call him by his bishop titles.
Yeah. And
you'll be addressed as the Suffragan Bishop of Tema in the making. Is it correct?
No. Tema is not a dance. Yesterday, you asked me that question.
No, right. I just want to, the person is watching, so I just want to repeat from you. That is it correct?
It's wrong.
It's Suffragan Bishop of Tema in the making.
It's wrong. There's nothing like Suffragan Bishop in Tema making. He is Suffragan Bishop of Accra. Anglican Diocese of Accra has elected a Suffragan Bishop, and he's going to be consecrated. And when he's consecrated, he will be, after consecration, he will be introduced as Right Reverend Dr. George Kote Nikwe, Suffragan Bishop of Accra. You can decide to call him First Suffragan Bishop of Accra. It doesn't really make anything.
All right. So we'll be looking at that and then more other. When we come back, we'll be looking after the election of a diocesan of the newly carved area. What becomes, now we've realized that every priest that is in Tema, right after the inaugural ceremony, is automatically going to stay in Tema. Now those that are in other dioceses who wishes to sweep carpet or cross carpet into the Tema created diocese, what are the modalities that is there for them constitutionally and conventionally? We'll also come and look at that right after this break. Please do stay tuned.
Of Accra, by divine permission and under the auspices of His Lordship, Right Reverend Dr. Daniel Sylvanus Mensah Toto, the Diocesan Lord Bishop warmly invites you to the consecration of the Very Reverend Dr. George Kote Nikwe as Suffragan Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Accra on Sunday, 30th January 2022 at 8:30 a.m. prompt, happening live at the consecration grounds of the Cathedral Church of the Most Holy Trinity on the John Evans Atta Mills High Street in Accra, and will be aired on Adwa TV. Guest of honor, His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President, Republic of Ghana, Most Reverend Dr. Jonathan B.B. Hart, the Archbishop and Primate of Church of Province of West Africa, and the consecration celebrant, Right Reverend Charles May, Anglican Bishop of Highfield Diocese, South Africa, who is guest preacher for the consecration, Most Reverend Dr. Cyril Ben Smith, the Archbishop for the Internal Province of Ghana, Anglican Communion, Episcopal House of Bishops for the Internal Province of Ghana, heads of diplomatic missions in Ghana, the Ghana Christian Council of Churches, Corporate Ghana, and the entire brethren of the Anglican Diocese of Accra will be in attendance. Be part of this historic and spiritual service as we see Very Reverend Dr. George Kote Nikwe being consecrated as Suffragan Bishop.
Welcome back from the break. You're still watching AM Ghana here, and we're having an educative conversation with the Reverend Canon Anthony Eiwuley, who is the Provincial Secretary for the Church of Province of West Africa, on the creation of new dioceses within the Anglican Communion, as well as the role, mandate, and functions of a Suffragan bishop, and we extended it to other bishops to so far as the Anglican Communion is concerned. I have Osaje phone Anaba Kwamina Asante, who is watching on Facebook, says the beauty of canon law. God bless you. You know, I tell you, people call him the law himself. Yes. This one is coming from a friend, and I won't mention his name. He says that canon, why is the whole bishop to a provincial secretary? How many provincial secretaries do we have?
In every province, there's one provincial secretary. But let me make a distinction. In 2012, we created two administrative provinces. That's the internal province of Ghana. And the province there is with a small p, and not a capital P. So it's capital I, small p,
and big G.
Big G. And the same way with internal province of West Africa, which is the rest of the province. It's capital I, small p, and capital W and capital A. Now, there is only one provincial secretary in every province. Then, when the Episcopal Synod meets, that's the House of Bishops, they elect their own secretary, and it's called the Episcopal Secretary. Bishop Matthias of Ho is the Episcopal Secretary of the Church of the Province of West Africa.
So the Episcopal House of Bishops,
right,
have elected their own secretary.
That's it.
Who would be coordinating the activities with the House of Bishops exclusively
Bishops, right,
to itself.
Yeah.
But and you as a provincial secretary cut cross.
Yeah, but I don't attend Episcopal meetings unless I am invited.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So I think that my good friend has gotten the clarity and then the education there, right.
But let me, you know, there is a little confusion here. In the Constitution, when we created the internal provinces, I mean, the secretaries started calling themselves the provincial secretary of it. They are not provincial secretaries. The title in the Constitution says secretary. There's no prefix to that.
So they are secretaries.
Secretaries to the internal province.
Okay.
Because the moment you bring provincial, you prefix it with provincial secretary, you duplicate
the role.
Provincial, not the role, you duplicate the provincial secretaries in the province. There's only one provincial secretary.
So as it stands now, when we come to the CPWA, you are the only provincial secretary.
I am the only provincial.
But the internal provinces have their own secretary.
They have their own secretaries.
Okay, so they play their roles. So they coordinate with you.
They coordinate with me.
That's it. And then the provincial Episcopal House of Bishops has its own secretary. And when it comes to the internal provinces too, the House of Bishops too are also having their own secretaries that coordinate the activities there.
Definitely.
But at the end of the day, you are the administrative head. That's interesting. Okay. Now we looked at who qualifies to become a bishop in the diocese, and then you said that anybody that qualifies per constitutional mandate will then go and contest to become a diocesan. Now, in the aspect or in the event of people who now, after the diocesan is present in the diocese, feels that, okay, I don't want to be in Tema diocese anymore. I want to go to another diocese. I want to probably, Tema Ho is not far. I want to go to Uhu diocese. Or maybe I want to come back to my mother diocese. Maybe go back to Accra. And there's somebody in Accra and any other diocese who feels that, okay, I might find myself in tune with whatever the new diocesan of the Tema is going to come out with. So I also want to come to the Tema diocese. What are the modalities for the persons within these jurisdictions for them to do as to whether come into Tema or go out of Tema as a priest?
Okay. Now, we have two categories. We have what we call letters de mystery and letters escargation. Now, when I decide, like I'm in Tema, then Tema is created, and I decide that I've stayed in Tema for so long, I want to relocate to Accra. I should have good reasons to relocate to Accra.
You are saying this hypothetically.
I'm saying hypothetically. I should have good reasons to relocate to Accra. It's not just because I don't like the bishop who has been, because it is not the bishop you are working for. You are working for Christ. The bishop is just a representative.
But you have a canonical obedience to the bishop.
That's why I say. That's why I say it's not the bishop you are working for.
Oh, okay.
To say that because you don't like his personality, you don't want to work with him. But there might be a very good reason for you to relocate to a particular jurisdiction. Maybe your work. Now, when it comes to work, then we have what we call letters de ministry, and I'll read from 22 stipulates that and I'm talking about the bishop, the Dastan bishop, right? I certify that Reverend so and so, canonically resident in the diocese of Accra, who has signified his desire to transfer to the diocese of B, is a priest or a deacon in good standing in this diocese and has not, so far as I know or believe, been justly liable to evil report, for error in religion, or for viciousness of life for the past number of years. Issued this day, blah, 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 on this day, year of my consecration, then the bishop signs. This is a situation where the person says that I've been transferred to Kumasi. I mean, coming in and out from Kumasi to Accra, one is maybe risky to my life. I mean, it might tell on me. So when I come to Accra, I will not be able to play my role well as a priest. So I'll be happy if you could release me whilst I'm on transfer to be working in. Let me finish. To be working in Kumasi. That is letters de ministry. It's like you are dismissing him temporarily from Accra to go to Kumasi, but he's still a priest of your diocese. Then we have escargation.
And before it comes to escargation, the letters of the mystery, from the explanation you've given, mean that it will be applicable for part-time priests? Worker priests?
It's applicable for worker priests, mostly. That's non-stipendary. Because you are a full-time priest. What are you going to do in Kumasi?
Yeah.
But I work, and my company has transferred me to Kumasi. And I'll give you a typical example. The DS was transferred from Accra to Kumasi, but he did not seek letters de ministry. He wanted to be, and so he was shuttling. I mean, and if you ask him, he will tell you that he had a toll on him. At times he comes, he is tired, but when you have a conversation, he jokingly says, "I enjoyed it." But I know that it's tiring. Traveling is tiring, and so if you work in a particular area and you are transferred, then you can seek what we call letters de ministry. It is a good reason for the bishop to release you to go. Now, when we come to escargation, now with escargation, the bishop cannot escargate you when he doesn't have an assurance that another bishop is ready to receive. And so you can't just go to the bishop and say, "Bishop, I've been elected as a family head in my village, and I have to always be there. And so I want you to transfer me to maybe Sekendi, so that I'll be closer home." Sekendi, the Dasan bishop of Sekendi would have to indicate that when you come there, he has a place for you. Because if he doesn't have a place for you, the bishop cannot release you. Because you can't release a priest and let him hang. And so that's what comes with escargation. So I escargate you, then he incarnates.
Okay.
And so there should be a letter from the receiving bishop to incarnate you into his diocese. Then the bishop would then say, "Okay, now I have an assurance. Then I give you the letter of release." I'll give you a typical example of somebody that I know. Rev'D Canon Bernardinchi. He used to be a priest in Sekendi. He escargated to this place. There are a couple of them, but I don't want to go into details because some of them, I mean, there's a little type of confusion because at times some bishops, some priests decide to resign. I mean, I've resigned. Then they go, jumping around trying to see a bishop if a bishop would take them. And in most cases, what happens is that the bishop would want to seek clarification from the diocese that he's resigned from. That I have a priest here who used to be, is he still with you? The bishop said he has resigned. Should I take him if you so wish? Which means that the bishop has given his blessing. But if the bishop says you take him at your own risk. Then there's a question mark on it, because you have resigned your office as a priest in a particular diocese. And so you are going out there. Yes, you have the qualification that you've gone to theological school, you've been ordained as a priest. But which bishop is going to take you in when he doesn't have a blessing of your former diocesan bishop?
If I put all together and try to summarize briefly that any priest in Accra diocese, when Tema diocese is created, would have two means: the letters of the mystery, that is at his disposal, and secondly to excardination. But before an excardination letter can be given out, the diocesan bishop of Accra would have to confirm with whomever is the diocesan bishop of Tema, if he is ready and has a place for you, before that letter will be sent, and then there will be incarnation to receive that third priest there. And it's vice versa too for those who want to leave Tema and come to Accra. That is interesting. All right, let me come to this quick question. This one says that how many years can a Suffragan area become a diocese?
Yesterday we talked about it.
Yes, so this one is coming from Osajifo Nanaba Kwame Na Asante.
Yeah, this one we talked about it.
There's nothing like
there's no clear-cut number of years. And yesterday I gave you an example. Of the Suffragancy of Cape Coast, which translated to the Diocese of Dunhordofin, which took 3 years. The Suffragancy of Kumasi, which translated to Asante Mampong Diocese, which also took 3 years. It can take less than that. Accra is trying to fast-track the process. But it all depends on the processes that goes to culminate in the carving approval and the carving out. And so, we can't take any number of years. And I gave you a typical example of the province of Ghana, which has been sitting on the drawing board for 19 good years. I'm not saying it will happen this way, but we don't have, the constitution doesn't give any specific.
But this is Accra. We will make it happen.
Well, it depends.
Everything is in Accra. This is we are big anyway. Please, you can keep your messages coming into on 0559792497 or 0559759660. And this is all in tune towards the consecration of a Suffragan bishop-elect in the person of the very Reverend Dr. George Kute Nikwe, who is currently the Dean of the Cathedral, on the 30th of January 2022 at the consecration grounds. It's going to be an historic event and it's open to the public. You can come and then witness it. Our last bit of the conversation, we have to use the 4 minutes to talk about the Pontifical High Mass. They say that the consecration is a pontifical and then a provincial event. Tell us about it.
Now, it's a provincial event because it's presided by the primate. And it's in his absence, because we have internal province, in his absence, the dean of the province, who is the archbishop of the other province. And so, in this particular situation, the primate is not going to be present. So the dean of the province, who is the Most Reverend Dr. Cyril Kobna Ben Smith, the archbishop of the internal province of Ghana, and the Diocesan Bishop of Asante Mampong, he would preside. Now, to consecrate a bishop, you need 3 bishops: the archbishop and 2 other bishops. In case the archbishop is not available, the most senior bishop in the province presides.
Should his unavailability be in writing or on site?
or not on site, but definitely if he's not going to come, he'll communicate so that whoever is going to take over the role, would be prepared for the role.
So
let me give you a hypothetical situation. Assuming the primate was going to come, he was going to come from Liberia. Currently, he is in the U.S. on medical grounds. Let's say that he says, "I am coming." His flight is cancelled. He will naturally find a way to communicate to the Archbishop of the Internal Province of Ghana that I cannot make it because my flight has cancelled. Take charge. In this particular situation, there has been communication between him and the Archbishop of the Internal Province of Ghana. This will be the second consecration that the Archbishop of the Internal Province of Ghana would be presiding. The first one was the one at Yosso.
Okay.
Assuming, nobody says anything to happen, but assuming something happens.
Because Asante Mampong would have to use flights to come to Accra.
Well, already they are in Accra because the bishops of the Internal Province of Ghana are having a retreat.
Oh, okay.
And so they are in Accra. I think they are reporting today. The retreat starts tomorrow and Saturday. But what I'm saying, assuming something happens, and I'm not saying something should happen. The next, we can't cancel the consecration service. So the next bishop, most senior, takes over, and he will be the principal consecrator.
Okay, what makes it Pontifical High Mass?
Well, when they say, the Pontifical High Mass has been given a name borrowed from the Catholic Church because of the pontiff.
The pontiff, yeah.
The Mass that the Pope presides. The Mass that the primate presides. That makes it Pontifical High Mass. Because the Pontifical means that the head of the church is the one presiding. And so when in our diocese, when we have masses, we call it's only a high mass and not a Pontifical high mass. Because it's the province, the head of the province is the one presiding. That makes it Pontifical.
So that day we should see only clergy participating in a lot of rules when it comes to, I saw something, is it primarial cross or whatever?
Primatial cross.
Primatial cross. What is it?
Primatial cross is the staff of authority for the primate. He doesn't hold it per se to walk, but it is ahead of him, held by his chaplain. But when it comes to maybe pronouncing blessing, it is handed over to him as a staff of authority for him to use it to bless. And when it comes into such services, he holds his crozier. Because when the primate moves into any diocese, he becomes more or less the preeminence in that diocese. Now, when the primate goes into a diocese and does not have his crozier, most of the time the diocesan bishop hands over his crozier to him. That's what I've seen over the years. In situations like this, the diocesan bishop is entitled to hold his crozier, in spite of the fact that the Archbishop is holding his crozier.
So we should be expecting the diocesan of Accra holding his crozier on Sunday,
because this is his diocese.
But
the provincial, the primate is holding his crozier because this is his province.
Interesting speaking. Interesting narrative you've given, and thanks for the education and clarity too. What you've done is a human's job, where we've understood the creation properly, the role of the diocesan properly, the Suffragan bishop properly, and then the mandates too that might be given to the Suffragan too as well. And in this sense that he'll be taking his authority from the diocesan bishop, and he does not wield any authority yet until the diocese is created, and then he then goes to contest to become a diocesan bishop and become a bishop there. I'm most grateful to you, Canon, and then keep being the law to us. And I kudos to your friends who are watching from far too as well. Thanks to all our friends who are watching on Facebook, and I'm so grateful to you too. Tomorrow we'll be having an exclusive interview with the Suffragan bishop-elect. It's going to be in 3 parts. So we'll be showing part 1 in the morning, part 2 later in the day, and then part 3 on Saturday. So do what to follow the conversation. We'll talk about everything his ministry, everything his life growing up, talk about everything to as far as he has been ordained as an Anglican priest, and he's risen through the ranks from where did he start from? Ordinand, deacon, priest. He became a canon. He became an archdeacon, and then he rose to become a dean, and now elected Suffragan bishop. That he has a date for consecration. So we'll be talking about that too as well. And it's finally his vision too for the area to be carved out if it becomes a full-fledged diocese. So join me tomorrow too. We'll communicate the time to you on fly on our social media handles too as well whilst we do that. Until then, the name is Pepsival, and one more time, thank you to the very I wanted to ask the very reverend. So it's in the future. It will be coming. So the Reverend Canon Anthony Eiwuley, who is the Provincial Secretary for the Church of Province of West Africa. Canon, we are very, very grateful to you for coming. Thank you. And then I like you in white.
It's my pleasure.
All right. It's a working law. So let's make time too for the AFCON review team. Our sports to us, they come and talk about AFCON. See you tomorrow at 8.